Welcome everybody. Hello and welcome. Welcome back to Two Friends Fighting. This is going to be another special early week episode. We're going to be breaking down Anderson Silva versus Uriah Hall that just happened this past Saturday. Robbie, you got any initial thoughts here?
Well, first of all, if you guys watched our previous breakdown of Khabib and Gaethje, where we talk about the preview of Silva and Hall, I guessed right because I picked Hall. Jackson did not. But
so far, 0 for 2 on the predictions on the podcast. But
the good news is none of us put down money.
We did not put down any money this time.
Although I would have actually won this time, but so screw me too. But I mean, as much as I didn't want, I would have loved to see Silva retire on top because he deserves it.
I think that's a lot with why I initially picked Silva. Like when it comes down to like making a selection on who's going to win in a fight, I think a lot of it has to do with like your emotional feeling about a particular fighter. That's why sometimes I feel like it's better to like cut out that emotion when trying to like,
absolutely.
If you're actually trying to make a wager or something, if you're just making like a friendly pick on who's going to win, it's okay to sort of back the guy that you like a little bit more, right?
Of course, and that kind of adds some fun to it too. But like, how do you not put emotion to it? We grew up watching Silva fight. Like he, to this day, and actually this is what makes me really enjoy, like gives me some more faith in humanity, because typically someone goes out on a bad note and loses. What happens on social media? The guy gets bashed. Yeah. Right? Didn't happen this time. Mm-hmm. All I've seen since he unfortunately lost was all of his amazing accomplishments. Yeah. He still has the longest title defenses, the most knockouts in UFC fights, and everyone's talking about like how much of the great things he did for the UFC since he became champion of the middleweight division. So I thought that was really great.
So I think we should probably let everybody know, in case you haven't seen it, Anderson Silva, the former UFC middleweight champion, with like an extremely long title reign. He's considered one of the best of all time.
Check out his highlight reel.
He is now around 44, 45 years old. Yep. And this was meant to be his retirement fight, win or lose. He went up against Uriah Hall, who's sort of now become a little bit of a veteran of the middleweight division. Not as old as Silva by any means. But Uriah Hall did upset Anderson Silva this past weekend. It wasn't technically an upset because Uriah Hall was the betting favorite. Yeah, but upset, I would use that in the terms of a lot of people love Anderson Silva,
and we're upset.
Absolutely. Anderson Silva is what I've mentioned in the past got me into Muay Thai and training mixed martial arts in general. I'd like to get your sort of thoughts on Anderson Silva's legacy as this is supposedly his last fight in the UFC.
First of all, I think it should be. There's no reason for him to keep going in there at his age and keep getting, for lack of a better word, beaten up. But like you said, his legacy is undeniable. Like I said, he still has like the most title defenses in a row. He still has the most knockouts in championship fights.
Demetrius Johnson has more title defenses in a row.
Again, why they don't give them enough credit to Demetrius Johnson? Maybe he doesn't have them in a row. Maybe he has he
had the record for a long time.
Yeah. But like you said, he inspired so many people to get into like striking because he was the guy who was doing. He was like one of the first guys to do, in the UFC at least, to do that Muhammad Ali style, like, oh, you missed again, you missed a third time. And like one of his famous fights, if you guys haven't seen this before, go watch Silva versus Forrest Griffin a couple years back.
Wow.
And he actually went up in weight class to fight this guy. Like he was normally 185. That fight was at 205. And
it was literally like the Matrix, eh?
Yeah. Oh, it was absolutely insane. Which again is unfortunately also why like this loss for him was kind of unfortunate because again, if you guys watch him fight Forrest Griffin a couple years back, he actually he's leaning back as Forrest is coming in with a punch. So Forrest misses his punch. Well, and Forrest Griffin's great, by the way. I love Forrest Griffin. Mm-hmm. Great advocate for the sport. Silva just kind of like boops him almost like a little light touch as Forrest is coming in and Forrest goes down.
The technical striking term is boop.
As of now, it is now boop.
Yes.
Hashtag Hot Toss 2020.
You have your jab, your cross,
And
your
your boop.
uppercut, and your boop.
It like for those of you guys listening on Spotify, you can't see this, but for those on YouTube, it was literally like a little, almost like a pommet. Like his hand was like up, and then he went down a little bit. It was really funny.
Broke his jaw.
Yeah, did he break his jaw? I know he like ran out of the octagon.
Forrest Griffin's jaw. Yeah,
that explains why. Because Forrest just gave up after that.
Yep.
But unfortunately, like that same kind of shot is what put Anderson down in this fight. He was coming in, Uriah leaned back, caught him. Luckily, no broken jaw, and he wasn't like out. Like he took shots on the way down, but the fact that because he was doing well up the first 2 rounds, like he was showing off like prime Silva status again, and then got caught.
Yes,
which is really too bad. But
yeah, so let's sort of get into what actually happened in that fight, right? So, like you mentioned, Anderson was. He was not exactly like prime Anderson, but he had sort of flashes or
you
like...
can't bring back prime Anderson. You're in your 40s, but like shows that he was like still training well.
But he definitely, like he had those like flashes of brilliance that we were sort of used to seeing from Anderson in the past. You could sort of see that he was definitely, I don't know, his reflexes seemed okay. They weren't like we said, they weren't prime, but I would like to add that he seemed a little bit more active, at least in terms of like the throwing strikes, especially in like that first round. Definitely a lot more strikes thrown than we've seen in the past. One of my biggest knocks on Anderson in his most recent fights is that he just seems so gun shy. He seems so hesitant. He seemed like he had the ability, like every time he'd throw something on his opponents. Like I remember that Michael Bisping fight. Every time he'd throw, he'd hurt Bisping, but he just would never follow it up. He wouldn't, like, he just waited too much.
Yeah, his first fight back years ago against Nick Diaz, who again came up in weight. Like I thought, like he won that fight, which was great. Like Silva won the fight, which is great, but like he could have finished that fight. Right, like, and you saw Nick Diaz taking advantage, but like he had just come off of his like broken leg from his second fight against Weidman, so he was obviously gun shy. But like,
getting knocked out by Weidman, then shattering his shin bone, right?
Yeah, which by the way gave me like nightmares about throwing kicks without shin guards for a long time. I think. Yeah, that was brutal. I watched that fight live, not there, but like on TV, and I'm just like, they played it in slow motion like 4 times. I'm just like, huh?
Yeah,
it was nasty.
So what do you think then was Silva's biggest downfall in this fight? Was it just like Father Time knocking at his door? Was it?
I think it was the culmination of like the last few fights he had where he like wasn't the old Anderson, and he had taken more shots and developed, like you said before we started this podcast, developed kind of a glass jaw. Because back in the day, you couldn't hit the guy, but if you did, he'd be fine. He'd be okay. He'd last. And now a shot like that takes him out.
Yeah, his jaw is just not where it used to be, eh?
But he's also has like over 30 wins and not that many losses, and he's doing this for years and years and putting guys down. So
if you saw the fight, then you would have seen the replay of what actually dropped Silva, which led to the ending sequence there.
It was the boop.
It was literally just a boop. It was a boop on I think it was the chin or something like that, or maybe on the temple. But it appeared to be a fairly light strike to the head. Yeah. Right.
And that comes down to like the precision of it, right? Like because Silva, like again, like you said, the last few fights,
he didn't see it coming.
The last it's a punch you don't see that gets you. But like you said, he was more aggressive and he was putting his weight more forward versus his last few fights where he was very slow to start, throws one shot, dodges a few. I think because it was his last fight, he really wanted that last win, which is commendable. Like, who wouldn't want to go out on top? Yeah, I think so. I think he was.
I think it was
going for it.
The only thing is I think it was a really easy fight for him. Like, stylistically, it seemed very easy. Number one, Uriah Hall. Everybody knew that he had a great amount of respect for Anderson Silva, and you could see that he almost didn't want to hurt Anderson. After the fight, actually, he went up and he was crying and apologizing. Sorry for what I did to you.
Well, probably because, like, again, for even people Uriah's age, he's not too much younger than Silva, but Silva's been doing it for so long that he
Silva's his idol.
He was inspiration for Uriah. And you see it in how Uriah fights, especially when he first got onto the scene. Uriah Hall, look up this guy up. He lands this nasty spinning back kick in his season of Tough.
Yeah.
The Ultimate Fighter. Like
it builds the expectations so high,
builds him up,
right?
and then unfortunately he lost that season in the finals to Kelvin Gastelum, and then Kelvin went on a tear and Uriah kind of didn't. And I think maybe we'll see if Uriah kind of starts to build up his ranking after this. Because maybe he's like...
I don't really think so. Nothing about that performance really gave me any hope that Uriah, or any sort of insight that Uriah is going to be moving anywhere up the rankings. Like, look at the statistics of that fight. His output was less than Anderson Silva's, which Anderson already doesn't have like a great amount of output.
Didn't need it.
Right?
A lot.
He didn't need it, but it was just... Do you think that punch would have dropped anyone like in the top 10?
Most likely no.
No way.
But like again, Anderson is older, so who knows? Maybe
and this is coming from like one of the biggest Anderson Silva fans. Like, I'm just speaking the truth. Anderson, he does not have it anymore. He cannot, like, I picked Anderson before the fight. I thought that this being his last fight, he's gonna come in, and he was prepared. But I did not think that his jaw was that bad.
Yeah.
His chin just couldn't take a shot.
Well, in your defense, like, what was the last time? I'm not sure. The last time I saw Anderson fight was when he fought Israel Adesanya, the current champion, and it went to a decision because of Izzy's like respect. Because again, who does Silva inspire? Guys like Israel Adesanya, and they went all 5 rounds. So who would have thought that he would get knocked out by a guy who's like not even... I don't know what Uriah's ranking is right now. I think
he's number 10.
It was a main event, so they had to put like someone in the top 10. But like, if Anderson can go a full 5 rounds with a champ who's like been putting guys down like crazy, who would have thought?
So I definitely want to get your thoughts on this then. So we're just talking about Israel Adesanya, the champion at middleweight. After Uriah Hall beat Anderson Silva this past weekend, he starts calling out the champion, Israel Adesanya, who was actually in attendance. He was sitting in the audience, like one of the only people allowed in the audience during that fight. Uriah Hall starts calling out Israel Adesanya. He says, I should be the one to fight Israel Adesanya. Do you think that he has any sort of validation for that argument whatsoever, that, hey, I deserve it. I just beat Anderson Silva. I deserve a title shot.
As much as it's impressive that he did that, you got to get at least higher than rank number 5 before you can.
Was it even impressive though? I don't even.
Well, I mean, having Anderson Silva on your record of like wins is gonna mean something. Yeah, it absolutely means something in my opinion.
Yeah.
But like I said, if you are
it's
actually
got an if you're looking at the record, it should have an asterisk beside that though.
You should should have Silva, but like when, like how old he was.
Yeah.
Is it prime Silva or like current? Like But
it's like at the end of Muhammad Ali's career, right? Somebody who beats Muhammad Ali at the end of his career, it's not really Ali, like prime Ali,
it's
right?
like the part early.
You have the name on your record, sure. You have it on your record, but what does it actually mean?
Yeah, that's your legacy now. Is like beating that guy.
The Uriah Hall versus Anderson Silva, that win. Okay, yeah, you did beat Anderson Silva, one of the greatest fighters to ever live, but the guy just simply could not take. He can't take a shot. It was not even it wasn't that hard of a shot that dropped him.
And I think, but of that being said, Anderson Silva was also known for like putting those light shots at the right time, and I think Uriah was able to get that shot off, whether it was lucky or it was well timed on his end. Either way, he gets that win. But like I said,
he gets the win for sure.
I do not think you have any right to call it the champion if you are like anywhere below like. Honestly, maybe even top 3. Yeah. When's the last time you saw anyone below like rank 2 or 3 or 1 going for the champion, right? Like you gotta work, like good for you, Uriah, good win, and you're ranked.
It's not like the old days, like this past like sort of generation, or like the past like even maybe 1.5, 2 years. It's really been like top contender fighting the champion every time, right? The UFC's been doing a good job.
I think that's how it should be. If you are that ranked, that makes sense. Why are you taking like the lowest guy in the rankings to the top? It makes sense. I think. Only way Uriah Hall gets to fight Izzy now is if he fights and beats Whitaker. I think that's true. But even then,
he definitely needs at least one more, and that one would have to be against someone like a Whitaker, right? He can't jump over. Yeah, he's not going to jump over Whitaker.
But even to fight Whitaker, who's number 1, you should work your way through like another few of the top 10 guys at least, because they're also in contention waiting to fight too.
Yeah, exactly.
But so who knows? Maybe this win over Silva gets the hype train built, because that's what it is.
Yeah.
If there's hype behind you and people want to see it, that's what the UFC is like. Okay, we can sell that.
But have you heard it? Like nobody is talking about Uriah Hall versus Israel Adesanya.
No,
nobody is clamoring for that fight.
Not yet, because like again, he has to like get the hype built up for it. So he has to beat more guys and show everyone that like, yo, I can do this. Because you can't just skip over the other 9 guys ahead of you.
Yeah. So I think really, obviously, this past weekend, a little bit of a sad one. I remember when Anderson lost against Chris Weidman.
The first time or second time?
The first time.
I was mind blown.
Yeah, I was mind blown. Really, really, it was just like even like the day after, I was still like feeling depressed that he had lost.
He had been champ for 8 years.
Now it's not quite as big of a shock because like it's kind of expected,
40s.
Right? But
where's Weidman now? He fell off the map after he lost to Rockhold.
Yeah, and
he just has been like on the downward spiral ever since.
Yeah. But he still goes down as one of the greatest of all time, Anderson Silva.
I thought I could say Weidman. I was like, no. He is he's the guy who dethroned Silva, but he did not keep that legacy up.
No. So we definitely covered that main event. There wasn't really any other big fights on that card, but I do want to talk about this upcoming weekend. Okay, so we have Glover Teixeira versus my boy Thiago Santos.
That's your boy.
So this is going to be in the light heavyweight division. These are 2 of the top contenders in that division, so they're really going to be looking for a title fight. Whoever wins, right?
I think it makes sense because they're 2 of the top guys. They've both fought John Jones. Glover got destroyed even after his 10-year winning streak against before he lost to John Jones. Thiago off of a bad
he had a torn ACL in that fight. And
against John Jones.
Against John Jones. And I thought that fight was very close. Very close. The first time I watched it, maybe I was a little bit biased. Okay, I had Thiago Santos. I've since rewatched the fight, and it was still very close. It was a very close fight. You could have given it to Thiago Santos.
I personally did. I watched that fight. I don't realize he has a torn ACL because he's actually holding it up pretty well. Because that's a serious thing.
I think that if he did not have that torn ACL, and I know this is like a what if thing, but I think that he proved it was so close with a torn ACL like after the first round. Yeah. Right.
And I think these 2 have both like recently done enough to prove that like if they beat each other, they get to fight the champion, who is currently Jan Blachowicz, or am I saying that right?
Jan Blachowicz or Blachowicz.
Okay, one of these two guys has to beat him because I don't want to keep saying that name.
Yeah. So I'd like to get your pick for the Thiago Santos versus Glover Teixeira. We're gonna again just highlight that our picks are not always right, especially mine. 0 for 2. But I am going to pick Thiago Santos, and I'm picking him by knockout.
You're going to pick the method too.
I am picking, but that's what Thiago Santos does. He has a giant Thor hammer tattooed on his chest. The guy is a hammer. He's a crusher. He knocks people out. I'm picking Thiago Santos by knockout, maybe the second round. I'd like to get your thoughts.
I'm actually going to agree with you on Thiago Santos winning, but I think it's going to go to a decision because I think Teixeira has proven recently that he has.
He's looking better recently.
He's been looking better. So I think it's going to be a clear unanimous decision because of Thiago Santos' ability to have really good striking. Yeah. I don't think Glover is going to go down that easily.
Okay. So there you have it, folks. We're going to be curious to see who you guys think would win in that fight, Thiago Santos or Glover Teixeira.
Yeah. It's this Saturday, November 7th at UFC Apex, which is in Las Vegas. So
Las Vegas.
It should be an interesting fight. The co-main event is also heavyweights, Andrei Arlovski versus a guy, I'm not sure, Tanner or something. But Arlovski's...
Tanner Bozer, right?
Yeah, Bozer or something, yeah. Arlovski's a huge legend in the sport, too, despite his nose being across his face now.
I don't know anything about Bozer, so I can almost not even really pick that fight. The only thing I'd say is that...
He's 19-1, though. His record is pretty good.
Okay. I mean, 19-1 against Andrei Arlovski. Andrei Arlovski is he needs to retire, too.
He's hitting what Silva's doing.
Yeah. He had that career resurgence a couple of years ago, but then... Ever since he started fighting tougher guys, he's getting older too. The guys keep getting younger. I'm gonna even though I haven't seen any Tanner Bozer, I'm gonna pick Tanner Bozer.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Arlovski because I think he has this ability to defy the ages. But I think it should probably be his last fight because there's really no sense in just staying in there and getting beaten up. I think.
Yeah.
I personally think even going back to Anderson Silva, I think he should have retired quite a while ago.
Yeah.
Too bad he couldn't he should have come back, fought Nick Diaz years ago, and then retired.
It would have been nice for him to retire on top.
Yeah.
I thought he should have retired after the Vitor Belfort fight, and that was a long time ago.
Oh yeah, but he was still that was still prime Silva.
Yeah,
in my opinion.
go out on top.
Maybe he had more things to prove.
Yeah.
But regardless, those are our picks for this event. And one last time, guys, if you haven't seen Silva's highlight reel, check it out, because regardless of how he lost, he will still go down, in my opinion, as one of the greatest of all time.
Absolutely.
Who did a lot for the sport and inspired both of us to get more into our striking, as well as multiple other fighters who are in and out of the UFC.
Definitely. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching, everybody. This has been another special episode of Two Friends Fighting. I'm Jackson.
And I'm Robbie.
Peace, everybody.
Thank you, guys.
Of course, that is a handsome, pretty the same sentence. So there was this decline right there. It's like, oh, that's the same thing. I'm handsome, I'm pretty, I'm attractive, beautiful.